Hello and welcome back. Today I am going to do a quick look around the entire small holding with you. I realised I haven't really done an update on anything outside of the veg garden. That's because a lot of the rest of the small holding has been a little bit neglected while I've been so focused on the gardens. But that's not to say that nothing has happened. There's actually been a fair amount going on. So I'm going to take you around and show you, and then we'll do a quick update from the veggie garden as well. I am headed out of town for a few days and it is supposed to chuck it down very soon, so I'll get around what I can get around and hopefully we don't get too wet. So I'm expecting to put a lot more effort into the food forest moving forward over the next few months. And why? Because I've been looking at it a lot more. And why have I been looking at it a lot more? Because of these guys. Hey girlies. The chickens have finally joined us here on our small holding. This is part of our plans from the start, but it's taken a little bit longer than we planned, but hey ho, such is life. Now these girlies are here, so they are point of lay. They've not started yet. We got them just over a week ago, so they're just settling in at the moment and hopefully we'll be getting some eggs in the next few weeks. I would like to let them free range a bit more. I don't know if I'll give them the full run, but I'd like to expand their area a little bit so that they can come out and do a bit more natural free ranging without having literally the whole property. Hopefully I'll get some sort of temporary movable fencing so that at least when I'm out here in the daytime they can be out a bit further, but contained so that they don't destroy all of my gardens. As I say, they've only been here for a week, so far they're just in the run there, getting themselves all settled in, and we'll see how they go. Yeah, I got my eye on you, mate. They'll look this green forever. And if we have a quick mosey around the food forest, as you can see the trees are all just doing. As I say, I've not done much out here other than sort of maintain the grass a bit and keep an eye on things. But all the fruit trees, mostly, we've had a couple of casualties in the wind. A couple of the smaller, like crab apples, got snapped pretty low by the wind. Last we were here, we were having some rabbit damage, which seems to have stopped now. So that's nice. It's been, I would say, moderate success out here. As I say, the trees are all coming along okay, but we've had a couple of mowing disasters. I did have an asparagus patch that got mowed, had an onion patch of perennial onions and perennial leeks, and that got mowed. I'm not placing any blame, but it was nearly the end of our relationship. So now we've agreed that if I'm going to plant anything out here, it's got to be in a very clear and obvious bed. So this is my Welsh onions. I think they're looking fairly glorious. I mean, grass is the bane of my existence here. This was obviously all just one big grass pasture when we moved in, so everything that I plant here is going up against grass, which I'm hoping will become easier as the trees mature. So now the only bits I'm really focusing on are at the base of those trees themselves to make sure that they don't compete with the grass too much, but otherwise, I mean, trying to remove grass from a whole field. I think what I'll do over the winter is get some black plastic, as much as I don't want to do that. I don't love layering the land in a load of plastic, but I think just to get a few bed-sized spaces cleared of grass, I think that's what I might do, is put a few big sheets of black plastic out and just let it choke out the grass underneath, just so that I've got a fresh space to start planting other things. Otherwise it's just too hard to have bits and bobs planted out here in and amongst the grass, because even if you clear it, if you leave it for a week or two without proper maintenance, then all of a sudden it's disappeared into the grass, and that's the end of that, and then that's how it gets mowed. I had some perennial things that went out here that I thought would be a really good idea to get out early, but they have either been choked out by the grass, or they've been mowed because it's not obvious enough where there's grass and where there's not. So that's my thoughts for how we'll progress with this space next year. But as I say, I don't feel like it's a failure because the trees are in, and that was the most important thing in the first year. Get that first year out of the way of growth on these fruit trees, because the sooner the fruit trees go in, the better. We've had no casualties of fruit trees yet, so it's all good. Let's carry on. May not look like much just yet out here, but I can see it. I see it. I see the future. I see the potential. I think it's going to be awesome. Alright, let's come through here and I'll give you an update on something else that's been going on. Excuse me, pup. I need to take that. I've hit my head on that branch so many times, honestly. Okay, here is our next update. I'm not burying bodies, I promise. Okay, so this is where our solar panels are going. The work has started. I mentioned in a previous video that we were digging a big old trench because we had to lay all the electric. No, we didn't lay the electric. We laid the conduit for the electrics to go up between here and the house, which is about 70 meters in that direction. So we hired a digger for a week and did all of that. And then this is where it ended, because this is where the solar panels are going to go, but the battery is up at the house, so it's the connection between the two. So here is the foundations that have been laid for our solar panels to go in next week. It would be sooner, except for the fact that it's been so wet that they need to leave it this long for the concrete to dry properly before they go ahead and put the weight of the solar panels on it. So there will be 22 solar panels going in down here. It's going to change how this bit of the land looks quite a lot. I know, big like black sheets aren't the prettiest thing in the world, but what they represent, what they're going to give us, is so valuable that I will be happy to look at them. Anyway, let's carry on. There's been a naughty puppy. Wonder who that was. So like with the chickens, this was a plan that we had before we moved here. We knew we wanted to do this, so when we were looking at property, we were either looking at places that already had some kind of renewable energy provision, or my butt's getting sniffed, excuse me, or we had to leave room in the budget so that we could do it quite early on. It's one of those things that does pay for itself, but obviously you need to have the money in the first place in order to put them in. So the earlier we could do that, the better. This is a long-term plan. We are planning to be here for a long time, so we always knew we wanted to get that done pretty early on. So while yes, they're not cheap to go in the first place, this is very much a long-term investment. So hopefully next week that will all be going in, and I will keep you updated on the progress of it. But it's all very exciting. Almost as exciting. My asters are coming out. Let me show you. Look at him. I reckon by the time I come back, those asters might just look fabulous. Right, let's continue walking around and I'll show you my corn, because that really is looking fabulous. Look at this. So I'm fairly excited by this. Sweet corn is just one of my favourite things in the world. We very much live by the motto that sweet corn makes everything better. And I've never grown it before because we've not had in-ground space. And realistically, if you want to grow sweet corn, you need a good amount of space so that you can fit a good number of plants so that they can pollinate one another. And you want to be able to plant it in a block like this so that there's a better chance of proper pollination. So I knew that I didn't really have any chance in my city centre garden, so I didn't try because I didn't want to live with the disappointment. Because the plants will grow fine, it's just you'll open the cobs and there'll be no sweet corn on it. So this is my first year doing it. I'm very hopeful. They got completely flattened in the wind, and I thought to myself that I would just leave them while the weather was still so bad, there was no point in me trying to step them all up and things, because there was no respite. I thought I'd let the bad weather pass, and then I'd come out and try and, you know, add some more compost and firm them back in and things. But to be honest, they've dealt with it themselves. I mean, a few didn't make it, but for the most part, they've stood themselves back up, which I think is pretty awesome. I've got some pumpkins growing around the edge. I'll show you those. So again, I'd never grown pumpkins before because, again, they need quite a lot of space. But when I planted these in, I did start the seeds in module trays, and I put them out when they just had a couple of true leaves. And it said spacing 2.5 to 3 meters. And when you're putting out a plant that's this big and you're spacing them 2.5 meters apart, it felt ridiculous. But now I see why. They are threatening world domination. There are a couple of fruits forming on it, so we'll see. I'm quite excited. This is a Connecticut, I think. I'll put the name. It is threatening to drown out my sweet corn a little bit. I think in future, potentially, the pumpkins, they went out a couple of weeks after the sweet corn, but wow, do they just explode. So I think maybe they need a little bit, the corn needs a little bit more time to grow, so they can get above this height before the pumpkins come out, because I just wouldn't have believed how quickly these would take over. But we're trying to train them sort of around the edges of this patch. I was just hoping that they would help stop the grass from creeping back in, if I could have them sort of trailing along, creating a bit of shade at that ground level, and then any pumpkins we get is just bonus. So yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised with how well that little bed has dealt with all the weather. Now if we come over here, see my San Marzano tomatoes here on one giant bush. They just seem to be putting the flowers on now, so hopefully we'll see some fruit there soon. This was the garlic bed here. I replaced it with tomatoes, some more beetroot, some more perpetual spinach. This bed is just filling me with so much joy. Most of the joy, to be fair, is coming from the nasturtium and the borage, both of which I'm not eating. I know you can eat nasturtium, but it's not to my taste. But look at them. So a lot of the lettuce in these beds has gone to seed now, which means I just need to take those out and I can give them to the chickens. The onions are looking great. They're starting to go over now, which means they probably need to come out soon. But I really need a couple of dry days before I do that, and we are not having 2 dry days in a row at the moment in any way, shape or form. One thing that's not doing great out here is my chickpeas. They were looking really good, but they've started to go a bit yellow. And they look like they're giving up, and we've got pods, but they're not full yet. They've only got tiny little immature chickpeas in there, so I'm not sure what's wrong with them. I've been doing regular feeds on this bed. Everything else is doing great. I wonder if maybe it's too wet for them. I'm not really sure. They were looking good, but as I say, they look to be giving up now, which is a shame because they've been in here the whole time looking so good, but I'm not sure. But otherwise, the celery's coming on great, the tomatoes are coming on great. I've had a few casualties on the tomatoes with like them snapping, but where they've snapped, I've just taken suckers off because I've not been too diligent with my pruning. So I've just taken suckers off and put those in the hopes that some of those will take and I'll replace the ones that I've lost. I don't know if there's time for that, but it's better than not trying it, isn't it? We've got quite a long season here. I mean, I'm still in North Wales, so it's not like we get glorious tropical weather or anything, but we are in a bit of a microclimate out where we are, meaning that we don't really get frosts over the winter. Obviously, the days are still short. It's still not warm. There's still not a lot of sunshine, so it's not like I can be growing tomatoes all year round just because it doesn't frost, but it does mean that we get a bit of extra time at the end of the season for things to ripen up before the frost's actually going to go ahead and kill the whole plant. So if we come along here, I've got more tomatoes in here. I did explain in one of my videos about how all the tomatoes got mixed up and I have no idea which are determinate and which are indeterminate. So basically I'm just putting them all in on a Florida weave like this, and then waiting to see what they look like, and then if they need pruning and training up, I'll do that, and if not, I'll just kind of let them bush and then use the weave for a bit of support, but not do the full prune on them. How beautiful. This is my one surviving cosmos from the first sowing. I have sown some more, again, I don't know if there's time, but they are so beautiful. There's loads of buds on here as well, so hopefully I'll get some flowers and I can bring a few inside. So as I say, I do a full garden tour when I get back, but I just thought I'd give you a quick peek as to how things are coming along. Courgettes have started coming in. If you've got any recommendations on how to eat courgettes, it's not just eating courgettes. It's a texture issue for me. So I'm planning to do courgette bread today. And we'll see. The red onions, they're not doing as well as the brown onions, but they're still coming along fairly well. We've got a boatload of beans gone in here, more tomatoes, and on this side the dwarf beans at the base of the climbing frame, which I'm very proud of. I had a few extra of these Cavolo Neros that didn't fit inside the netted brassica cage over there, and actually they look great, so I reckon I could start harvesting off of these now, which is fabulous. Here's an example of a sucker that I've replaced for a tomato that didn't make it. This little guy. It is down this end a bit where the tomatoes have suffered a bit more with the wind. As you can see, this one, he's not making it, but hey ho, that's what it is. I just keep throwing stuff in while I've still got the weather. I've just not spent as much time out here as I thought I was going to, because the weather's been so bad. It's not that I'm not willing to garden in the bad weather, but there's only just so much you can do. I can't be direct sowing out here when it's literally like running water across these beds. When it's just windy, I don't want to be putting new, small seedlings out here because they just get snapped and die. So it does just have to be a bit of a waiting game, and I guess that's one of the biggest lessons for a new gardener, is that while you can plan and things can be in your control, there's also just so much that's not in your control, and you have to learn to work with it and read it a bit, and try not to take it too personally. So I put these leeks out the other day. I'm not sure how they're going to do, but we'll see. They just weren't growing at all in the trays. I sowed them in model trays when I sowed the rest of my onions. For some reason, these just didn't take off, and I didn't know why, so I thought I would just bung them out and see how they do in the ground. And if they don't make it, they don't make it. I'll start a new set to see if I can overwinter. I think it's going to be a lot of green beans and courgettes on the menu for the next couple of weeks. We've had a good number of beans off of here already, and there's more. Oh, it's so tempting to just pull them when you see them, but I've got nothing to take them in, so I'll leave them on there for now, and I'll come out in a minute and do some harvesting. Before we go inside, I do just want to check the brassicas real quick. The last video that I did in here, we harvested some Calabres and there were some side shoots, so I just want to pop in here and see. Oh, hang on. Yeah, I just went to pop in here and see how those side shoots are doing. Oh, just in time, look. You can see where I cut off here, and these are all coming up on that same plan, which is great. Oh look, some purple. That's cool. So I've got a boatload of Cavolo Nero in here as well, so let's put that on the menu as well. So there we go. I think that's the biggest updates so far. The garden is just ticking along. I will keep you up to date with that, but those nice big updates that the chickens are finally in, the solar is finally going in, and yeah, I feel like we're getting some proper progress. The food forest is surviving. I wouldn't go so far as thriving, but it's early days and I've not forgotten about it, and I'm going to make some serious plans for how to get some more perennial things in there over this winter. As I say, I'm heading away for a few days, and when I get back I'll be focusing on what I can plant for the autumn garden and what kind of things I'll be able to overwinter and get those things started now while we've still got some summer. So I'll go into more detail about what I'm going to plant for the autumn and winter garden, but I'll give you a quick peek while I'm in here of the things that I've already started. Right, so up on this shelf we've got, these are some osteospermum that I started from seed. I'm hoping we can overwinter and then they can go out in the spring next year and then they'll just perennialise, hopefully. Back there there's some crazy daisies and some pepper plants that probably aren't going to come to anything. Here we've got some cucumbers. I already talked about my fiasco with the cucumbers outside, so hopefully in here we might get some fruit. That's a new round of cosmos over there, and some more peppers up here. Oh, I can't get around there, hang on, I have to do some off-roading. These have just been moved while we're laying a bit of concrete. Oh, I still can't get in there. Alright, I'll show you in here. I've got another round of beans that needs to go out. Some herbs, some potted up herbs. Whoopsie. See how they go. Bunch of abandoned things over there. I need to be able to get into here. Oh dear. Now I'll show you how this has happened. These were up against this. Oh, hang on. Hey mate! These are up against this wall, but this patch was filling up with water. It's a bit of a, what do you call it, pothole. And while they were doing the concrete for the foundations of the solar panels, I thought I'd put it in here. But that's meant moving stuff. That means I now can't get into this greenhouse. Maybe you can though. So you'll have to tell me how it looked in there. I would imagine the answer is pretty dry and crispy because I've not been in there for a couple of days while it's been like that. I will get in there later today and tidy up. I know I've got bell pepper in there. We harvested our first bell pepper. It was about this big, but nonetheless it was very exciting. But there is more fruit on that plant and another, so fingers crossed we'll get a few peppers. Peppers haven't done great here. It's been very, very grey and rainy and windy, and if you've been watching the channel, you know I only got these greenhouses halfway through the season, so that is what it is. Anything I get off of those peppers is bonus. But anyway, that's a quick update. I'll update you on all the garden things when I get back. I think the heavens may be about to open, so I want to get down there and harvest beans that are ready, harvest those brassicas that are right on the edge. Oh, so there we go. That's an update on what we've been up to for the past couple of weeks. I am going to go and grab some beans and some brassicas. And then I think I'm going to go and hide from the rain, because while it looks nice over there, don't trust it over there. So with that, I shall bid you adieu until next time. Thank you very much. Cheers guys. What have we got? Hi. Bean. Don't eat my bean. You like doing this? Okay. No, you have the little bit. Oi, this bit. I knew he was lying. Look at these. They're pretty gorgeous. I pulled all of the ones that were big enough to eat 2 days ago. And now we've already got this, and I'm still going. Just off of these 6 or 7 dwarf bean plants. Honestly, dwarf beans, green beans, if you pick them green, give you such good value for your space. Oh, that's a bit close, sorry. Not bad for a couple of days.